Welcome to the Ultimate Insider Reveals, a limited edition podcast centered on King of Soca. The Ultimate Insider reveals how Montano became one of the world's most popular soca artists. My name is Ardeen Serju, and I'm in conversation today with none other than the Ultimate Insider herself and author of King of Soca, Elizabeth Lady Montano. Hello, Lady.
Hi.
Welcome.
Thank you very much.
First up, congratulations.
Thank you, thank you.
How does it feel?
I'm excited.
Yeah, I can imagine.
That's
Well-
been a long time.
Well, I think a really good place for us to start is for you to describe what it means to you to be the ultimate insider for Machel Montano.
What does it mean? It means just what it says. I'm the ultimate insider because I have been there from the beginning, the very beginning. I have been there through the good, the bad, the ugly, the indifferent, the successful, the failures, something that nobody else has experienced. So I think that I am, set to tell the real story.
Does that also carry with it, Lady, a kind of unique responsibility as well?
I wouldn't say unique, but I think it is an interesting responsibility because I feel that it has to be done. Because I have been around for the 40 years and I have heard and I have seen reports that only the ultimate insider can really reveal or tell the truth.
And in our conversations about this book, Lady, one of the things that has come up for me is this question about, I wonder who Lady or what Lady needed to do to take on this role in Machel's life for all of his career. Is there anything in particular that you needed to do or to become, you think, to play this role as effectively as we see you playing it over the years?
The main thing was to be there to support him because Machel, for all his years, always knew what he wanted to do, what he actually wanted to experience. But I had to be there to support because I know the importance of a very strong support system. And I was happy that I was able to provide that because I observed some of these child stars and I know that they might have their parents around, but sometimes the support is not there and things go, a little strange.
But who was your support, Lady?
Was my support.
Yeah, because just like how they say even the greatest therapist needs a therapist of his or her own, right?
So we supported each other, the Montanos. I had Monty was there as my support, Marcus. And Machel, our relationship is reciprocal.
Let's talk a bit about Machel's image as a seeker. Not that that's an image he wants to present, but that's an impression that he's left with many of us, I think, over the years, based on how we've seen him evolve. Is that something you identified with him from early on as a child?
Well, I will tell you what I identified. And there's a part in there called Ready or Not. I know that, which appeared very, very, very early in Machel's life, is that you can teach him anything. And he did nothing until he was ready. And he will always say, I can't do this. So I told a story in the book where Marcus, at 9 months, was swimming. His father will take him out in the ocean in Caranage with his little, where they put floats.
Yes.
And he'll be comfortable. And afterwards, he was swimming. Machel would cry. He did not want to go in the water. And then one day at the age of 2, he walked in the water and he was swimming all on his own. Then we bought them 2 rally bicycles. He did not want to learn to ride. He would have Marcus tow him up and down, up and down. He cried and he doesn't want to learn. One day I looked through the window and there was Machel riding the bicycle. And it goes on like that. I remember too when he was going to sing The Letter in 1984. 4 verses, 4 choruses. This child is 9 years of age. We tried to get him to learn it. He didn't want to learn it. He didn't want to sit down. So we had him, okay, first line, first verse, first line, first chorus, this, and we go in with him. So when we went to the competition, I sat down there with my fingers crossed, hoping that he would get it right. And he did get it right. For 9, it was perfect. So therefore, I realized that This is his way. And then when he got bigger, the Calypsonians, let's say like Kitchener, said that he's a Calypso singer because he doesn't write his own songs. And he said to me, Mommy, I can't write. I can't write any songs. And then one morning he got up and he said, Mommy, look, I wrote my own song. And he came third that year at 16 in the senior Calypso Monarch competition when Stalin won. Coco came second and he came third.
Do you think all of that is part of what makes him special? You say that very often when you give the story of his stillbirth, for instance. But when you reflect, of course, in hindsight on all of those stories and situations, does all of that make up this sort of special package that Machel is?
I think so, because I always tell him, I say, Machel, don't worry. Don't you see that everything falls in its place for you? And sometimes things don't go the way he wanted to go. And you will find that eventually it's a lucky thing it didn't go that way, because then something else comes up that is more suited for the purpose. So I always feel that he's special. I remember in 1999, when he said that he felt as though he had too much responsibility. And that is when I told him of his special birth. I told him that you definitely have a purpose in life. And from then, he went on, and then things just evolved and things happened. And we realized, or I realized, that there's something different with this guy.
And how did the reality of his living on purpose sit with you in terms of understanding that this was your charge, the special child, very talented, gifted, etc., clearly here for a reason? How did that affect the way you looked at yourself in relation to him? And did it ever feel like a burden for you?
A burden? My children can never be a burden. I tell everybody, my children, that's my life. Right? So it's never a burden. And as I said, I'm always there to support. And Machel always took the lead. And what I do know, Machel is not frivolous. Everything he does with a purpose. He's very serious. So once he comes to me and he know I am the go-to, I'm the go-to woman, I am there to always, to deliver. I'm the deliverer. He's the gatherer and I'm the deliverer.
I think about mothers I know who feel like, they have the weight of a responsibility for a child that they also feel is special in whatever way. And they think of what do I need to bring out? How do I bring out the best in me so I can enable the best in this child? And I think they feel a lot of pressure when they think about it in those terms. What did you do to just motivate yourself? Did you need anything external, or did it all come from within, lady?
It all came from, that's the way I was as a child. I didn't become a star, but I was very, very active as a young person. I danced. I always boast that I danced for Princess Margaret in 1962 when we got independence. I was an athlete. I did almost everything, and I was just very active, And I'm also, it comes just natural because I always support children or support people when they're doing things. And I think that I love to know that I can help or that there's something that I can offer. And I think it's just something natural within me the way I am. And luckily for me, Monty is the same thing. So that you found that our two children, they're just like us. So everything just came, it's kind of like organic. We never really had to do anything. I didn't really have to motivate my children because we taught them by example. Both Monty and I were always very active, hard workers. We were always seekers, adventurous, well-read, everything. So and our children just follow that lead. And I think that the best thing that we ever did was to make sure that we inculcated core values into these boys. And I think that's what worked for us.
There are a few themes that come up repeatedly in the book, a few words and ideas. A couple of them are unity and, of course, spirituality. And I feel like, of course, the spirituality thread runs through the entire book, right? Did you ever observe some kind of relationship between those two things in Machel's messaging over the years? coming through the various phases of Machel Montano. Because I think, I mean, as somebody who knew Machel sort of superficially on the outside as a fan, you know, you would always hear the word unity, but it never resonated until having had the opportunity to read the book and realizing, oh, this has been a consistent plug throughout his life. And then, of course, there's the spirituality factor. So I'm wondering if for you, you know, as somebody with a sort of ringside seat of his growth in that sense, did you really pick up on a relationship between these two things for Machel?
Well, I surely did, you know, because from the beginning, since he was young, I remember when he is asked, like in interviews, you know, what his mission was. And he would say, at the age of 9 and 10, he will tell me, Mommy, don't tell me anything, you will confuse me. And then he will start to talk about being innovative and creative and bringing people together and unity. And he will talk these things as a child. And then he was attracted to music like this. And he would always sing something, whether it was to a girl or to somebody. And then I realized early on, because we had this great relationship, that sometimes some of these songs sound like if they're talking to a girl, but it's usually God. And then he will tell you this. And then from the experiences he would have, he would link, because he will normally call on the creator to give him a sign. And this is from very early, you know, and since in the 90s, I remember 1998, he did this song, Hare Krishna, and it was a big controversy. And he said to me, and he said, as I put in the book, that he didn't know where this came from, but he kept hearing the beat in his head. And then he sang, put words to it. And just strangely enough, it fit with Hare Krishna. And then in 2000, when we had the real Unity tragedy, right after that, Machel started to do meditation. And from there, it went on, you know, and it grew and grew. But the thing is, at the beginning, we thought that Machel wanted to be, or he thought that he wanted to be, which is something he said, to give expression for the best of himself and take soca music to the corners of the globe, right? And we thought that meant to travel the world, also to win the Grammys, to do this, to do that. And as the book and as his journey developed, you realize that was not it. And I always tell people, I have been telling people, on one day, Carnival Tuesday, March the 1st, 2022, he introduced himself to India. He introduced soca. He introduced the creator of soca to 140 million people across the globe. And this was the message. This is the purpose, he said. You know, he took it to the corners of the globe on one stage, one night.
So was that when it really hit you what he meant over all that time?
No. I started to notice it very early, because I even showed him that when he started, say like I remember when he did this song, "We Not Giving Up," right? Again, that was inspired by dark times when he asked the Lord to give him a sign, and we were in a hotel, and there was a Bible in there, and he cut the Bible. And it came out on the story with Lot and his wife. And that is where when, remember, Lot was told to leave Sodom and Gomorrah and don't look back, right? And the wife did look back, and she turned into a pillar of salt. And this is where Machel came in with don't give up, continue, don't look back. You're on the road, go forward, like that. So every time something like this comes up, I notice the relationship. Then, when we sang that same Hare Krishna, and we got into the controversy, and then we sang "We Not Giving Up," we moved on. And I think about 20 years later, 2005, I think we went there maybe about 15 years later, we went to the Bahamas in an ashram. And after Machel graduated, he had to perform. And would you believe that he sang "We Not Giving Up," and his teacher, accompanying him, sang Hare Krishna with it. So they mixed the two things together. And that same thing, you know, so that was kind of, strange. But then I started to realize from there that something special is happening here.
Were you ever fazed by the potential for conflict that Mashel's sort of searching his spiritual journey could create for him as an entertainer? Given that the two things don't really seem to mesh, right? Particularly when he's on stage in his element as Mashel. And given the trouble we've seen with the Bobo Dread, for instance, and Hare Krishna, and other times that, people have spoken about, were you ever fazed by the potential for a fallout?
I'm never fazed.
How did I know you were going to say that?
I am never fazed because, and this is the thing that I taught my children. I don't look at challenges or obstacles as anything all this drastic. If something comes to me, I immediately say, what do I do? Or I go and I fix it. If I can't fix it, I am, I have this saying where, and Michelle too, that Lord grant me the serenity, to accept the things that I cannot change. The courage to change the things that I can change.
Yes.
And the wisdom to know the difference. So in other words, you accept this. You have to have the serenity to accept those things that you cannot change. And you have to have the courage to change those things that you could change. And you have the wisdom to know the difference between what I can't change and what I could change.
So you didn't have any concerns when he decided to maybe do a particular kind of performance or wear certain clothes that it could rub people the wrong way?
I never have a concern, Adi, because I always feel that Machel knows what he's doing, although that sometimes when he would come to me for advice, which he does all the time, and we will discuss it, and then eventually he will make a decision, right? And most times I'm with it, the public may not understand it at the time. For example, they didn't understand when he was coming with the ecstatic circus. They were expecting that there will be elephants on the stage and you will have mess to clean up on the stage and donkey and all of this. They didn't understand. And they were laughing at him. And by the end of Carnival, everybody was in awe. And then we see now everybody doing the same thing. That thematic programming is now the norm. Everybody having their own show, now the norm. When we came out, it was the alternative concept. And that was the alternative to playing the top 40 songs in a party. You go there, you're hearing the same song played by the 10 different bands and everybody competing to see who had the best version. And I think that apart from Charlie's roots, which I think Nappy and Machel followed, they decided, let's play our own music. And then Machel said, let's have our own show and we will perform our own music on that show. And we are going to have thematic programming where we will have theatrics and we will do something different to give our audience their money's worth.
There is that part of the book where you detail the transition to HD, Machel Montano HD, and all the dancers, etc. And you describe a profound sense of clarity that seemed unprecedented up to that point. How did you feel in that moment where you realized, okay, something has shifted here for Machel as the ultimate insider, as his manager still at that point? How did you perceive that shift?
I was awakened in the first place because I was not aware. Remember when Machel was talking about HD, the world was now going HD. So he was the first human being to go HD. And this is when television was becoming HD and everything was moving from analog to digital and all this. So I was awakened to that and I was really, surprised. But then I know that Machel is well read. Machel researches things and he knows what is going on. So you will find that he's usually ahead of his times. So I was there with him,
So
I felt awakened. Yeah.
So you felt like you were transitioning?
Yeah, I was learning because I didn't know all this analog and digital and as I said, HD was new. But then he saw it and he saw it as being clearer, being simple and still doing this where he wants to take that best expression of himself to the world in a clearer form. And it made sense to me. And what we did was each time we would meet as a strategic team. And when I say meet as a strategic team, the four Montanos, we would get together and Marshall will lead us into discussions and we will come up with plans. You will see in the book, there are diagrams.
Yeah.
All these diagrams were drawn by Marshall. And we will get there and Monty, Marcus, myself, and him, and we will put things together and fix up and come up with the plan.
I want to shift gears a little bit and ask you now about what I perceive to be a kind of tenuous relationship with the press, with the media. You know, because I think you do a really good job in the book of highlighting, of giving us a balanced view of how the press responded to Marshall on various occasions. So, you know, you talked about the media being against him, for instance, at some points. And then at other times, there's all the praise for him. What was that like for you, managing how people were talking about your son? I know that you also emphasize that there's a distinction that you make that's very clear between Lady the manager, Lady the mother, Lady the confidant, etc. But how were you able to separate yourself as mother from all of the critique and backlash sometimes that came through the media?
Well, most of the times I had to deal with the press or with negative thing. It was from the point of view of being mother, because that he would call me 3:00 in the morning and I wouldn't be going over to his house as the manager. I'm going over to his house as mother, you know. And I remember when he was 16 years of age, that was one of the most difficult times for him when the press brought up this whole idea about Marshall was a homosexual. And he was a young boy. And he didn't know how to deal with this. And it was very difficult for him, you know, but I was there to assist him. And I continued to do that. And I taught my children again and again. I told them that when people are speaking about you, you must do what is, what we say, like water on a duck's back. Just let it roll off. So we are not accustomed to going to people and answering and getting on social media. Well, at that time, they didn't have social media, but doing anything. We just took it. And this came most of the times as a motivator to Marshall. He'd say, oh, you want to say so and so? And then when he come out, bam. It's worse for the critics, you know, the critics. So that we survived it. And I think this is one of the characteristics that I always put forward, is that Marshall is very resilient. You know, so that with all these negative things, we were able to come above because we taught our children to know the truth. What people say doesn't matter as long as you know the truth. And I think this has helped us a lot.
Did you see the book as an opportunity to refute and rebut a lot of those rumors out there and misconceptions?
Well, I think early in the book, I did say that. And I'll give one or two examples. I remember in 2018, I was invited to go to Cuba for a conference that was, Marshall was the topic of the conference. But I didn't know. They never said what they were going to say, but so I was excited. When I got there, I think it was based on Marshall's relationship with women and how we treat women or whatever. But I remember one presenter talking about Marshall collaborating with Alison Hines on Faluma. And I'm saying, Faluma? Marshall never sang Faluma. I said, so why didn't they ask me if they wanted facts about Marshall? Because I am always willing to share the facts. Because I say, if you have knowledge and you don't share it, it's worth nothing. You know, so I'm always willing. And I sat there and I heard a lot of things. And this was one thing that motivated me to do it. And then when I was doing my presentation for my MPhil, which again, this book is an adaptation of my thesis in 2018. I remember at the presentation, somebody said, they questioned me, didn't you feel that you should have somebody else asking Marshall the questions because he wouldn't want to tell you what he will tell others? I said, well, they have it wrong. Well, they have it wrong side. I said, because what he will tell me, he wouldn't tell you. So I had several reasons. And then I have collected, I have a 40-year-old archive. And a lot of people come to me who are studying. They want to get information on Machel and they want to know. And I think that this was an opportunity for me to share it. And then up came the pandemic, giving me the opportunity to do so.
One of the things that the book does very effectively is actually demonstrate Machel's commitment to sort of honoring the past, whether it's in terms of his roots, where he comes from as a human being, or in terms of honoring the giants who've gone before him, especially the living legends of Calypso. And I'm wondering where that comes from. Where do you think he learned to appreciate the importance of honoring those who've gone before and just honoring his ancestry, etc.?
Well, the one with the ancestry, I think Machel was born in the time of Black Power. And his father was very much involved. And there's this question about East Indian and African. So Machel became very interested in Blackness and in East Indian culture and everything. So that part certainly came from that, And then I think that Machel, in terms of what should I say? In terms of that other part where you will say that Machel looked at his past or believe in his past or believe in the legends. Remember, Machel didn't start as these other young soca artists did. Machel started by working with Calypso Rose, with working with Sparrow, with working with Kitchener, with working with Stalin, with working with David Rudder as a child. And he saw them and they took him as, their son. So you will hear Rose talk about him as her son. So Machel grew to respect these people and he never lost that respect. And in growing up, he just continued to work with them, to reach out to them. And I suppose, it became part of him. And he respected their position. He never wanted to be better than Sparrow or better than David Rudder. He knew David's position. He knew Sparrow's position. He knew everybody. And then he was himself. And he developed himself as an individual, appreciating all these legends' position and their strength.
Machel, through his music, through his approach to music, his approach to his shows, and everything that he has done, has proven himself a game changer. I think that's undeniable. But I do wonder how important is it to you for people to know the contribution he's made, not just to the industry, but to Carnival, as part of our cultural landscape here in this country and the wider region. How important is it for Trinbagonians to know that to you?
Well, I think his work speaks for itself. And I know that if you are 100 years of age and you live in Trinidad and Tobago, you know Machel Montano. If you are 2 years of age, you know Machel Montano.
You think so?
Yes, and I'm going to tell you why. We have, like old people. Like I remember Machel just recently, Machel sang Happy Birthday for a woman who is 90-something years. And she was so elated because she remembered Too Young to Soca, right? And then you have little children who will stand in front of the TV and see Machel singing and they will be in awe. And then you see a lot of little children Machel has been able to reach in their sickness, in their last moments before they die as young kids, and now we have children who are in entertainment and everything, and they are realizing this man is something else, so that it goes across the board. And what happened too is that, especially with the children who have parents with Caribbean background, the parents teach them about Machel. I suppose they teach them about the other parts or the other people. But they have been able to identify them.
Do you think that people knowing his music equates necessarily to them understanding his contribution to the landscape?
Well, some of them don't, because some of them don't give themselves the opportunity to understand his contribution. So I think that through this book, I am hoping this is one of the reasons too for doing it, that they will see what he has done. And also, in one of the chapters, I gave some of the characteristics that Machel possessed, that you can say contributed to his success and to where he's at this time. And I lay it out there not as the Bible, but as something that I hope will inspire or motivate others to see that here is this little country boy who, because of these things, he was able to have a sustainable, successful career that is steeped in longevity.
Well, Lady, I think what you have put together is really a proper historical record of Machel's career up to 40. So what we look forward to now is an account of your own life. So, hopefully the next conversation we have outside of King of Soca.
My memoir?
Yes.
Oh gosh, I wouldn't like to hear that. That's very colorful.
Well, I don't know if Machel has to write part of that. Machel and Monty and Marcus.
Well, I think before Machel and Monty, as a young person, I had a very interesting, youthful
I have
life.
no doubt about that. And so we hope that the public can benefit from that one day, Lady. And,
yeah, but first let me do this 40.
Yes, okay, all right.
Because in this 40, I had to leave out a lot of things. Sometimes there is so much to say or to tell. And I hope that I will be able to do this. One of the things I want to do, as I said, maybe because being a teacher, I believe in passing on knowledge. And I would like to go to the schools. I would like to work with kids. I would like to go to community. I grew up under community, a sense of community. So I like to go into the communities themselves. And I would also like to go to universities and share this knowledge.
Fantastic. Lady, again, congratulations. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
And I know you'll be joining us for episode 2.
Thank you. It was a pleasure.